False. Keywords: Henderson, rarely, visited, press estate, younger. Explanation: we should look for the piece of information related to press estate using the skim and scan skill. It can be found in the first paragraph. It is stated that Alexander Henderson spent much of his childhood in the area, which means he often stayed in the press estate when he was younger. This is contradictory to the above statement. Therefore, it is false. Paraphrased words: press estate, in the area. When he was younger, his childhood. Visited, spent. True. Keywords: Henderson, business, career, family, wanted. Explanation: in paragraph 2, it is mentioned that Henderson never liked the prospect of a business career, but stayed with it to please his family. This means that he only pursued a business career because his family wanted him to do so. Thus, it is clear that the statement is true. Paraphrased words: pursued a business career to become an accountant. Because it was what his family wanted, to please his family. Not given. Keywords: Henderson, not man, surprised, results, 1865, experiment. Explanation: we should look for the year 1865 in the passage, which is in paragraph 3. Here, we know that Henderson and Notman carried out an experiment with magnesium flares. There is no reference, however, to the results of the experiment or about the men's reaction towards such results. The information is not given. False. Keywords: many, similarities, Henderson's, early, landscapes, not man. Explanation: the comparison between Henderson's and Notman's landscapes is clearly stated in paragraph 4. In spite of their friendship, their styles of photography were quite different. The author clearly states that their styles of photography were quite different, indicating there were not many similarities between them, so the answer is false. Not given. Keywords: studio, Henderson, opened, 1866, close, home. Explanation: we should look for the year 1866 in the passage. It can be easily found in the first sentence of paragraph 5, where it is stated that Henderson opened a studio. But the author does not mention anything about its location or the distance from the studio to Henderson's home, so the statement is not given. True. Keywords: gave up, portraiture, focus, photographs, scenery. Explanation: in the following sentence in paragraph 5, it is mentioned that he dropped portraiture to specialize in landscape photography and other views. The word specialize implies that he wanted to focus his efforts on only one kind of photography, so this statement is true. Paraphrased words: gave up, dropped. Focus on, specialize in. Taking photographs of scenery, landscape photography, and other views. False. Keywords: began, work, intercolonial railway, Montreal to Halifax line, finished, completed. Explanation: using the skim and scan skill, we can locate the phrase intercolonial railway in the middle of paragraph 7, then we read from there. In 1875, there was a commission from the railway to Henderson to record structures along the Montreal to Halifax line, which can be considered his work for the intercolonial railway. It is said that the line is almost completed, suggesting that at the time it had not been finished yet. Therefore, the statement is false. True. Keywords: last, work, photographer, Canadian Pacific Railway. Explanation: Canadian Pacific Railway, CPR, is mentioned in the last sentence of paragraph 7, and the entire paragraph 8. It is stated that Henderson took photos along the railway in summer 1892, and he continued until 1897 before retiring completely from photography. Thus, it can be understood that his last photography work, before retiring, was with the CPR. Merchant. Keywords: born, Scotland, 1831, father. Explanation: in the first sentence of the passage, it is stated that Henderson was the son of a successful merchant. In other words, his father was a successful merchant. Because we can only write one word, the answer should be merchant. Equipment. Keywords: bought, Henderson's photos, photography, considerable. Explanation: in paragraph 5, we know that there was a demand for Henderson's landscape photos. People bought his photos because there was little competing hobby or amateur photography, suggesting that at the time, not many people took photographs. Henderson, therefore, did not have much competition from amateur photographers or people who took photographs for a hobby. There are two reasons for this: time-consuming techniques and the weight of the equipment. The former can be understood as taking up considerable time, and the latter as heavy equipment. Thus, the answer is equipment. Paraphrased words: took up considerable time, time-consuming. Heavy, the weight of. Gifts. Keywords: photographs, Henderson, sold, souvenirs. Explanation: still in paragraph 5, it is stated that people wanted to buy photographs as souvenirs of a trip or as gifts. Therefore, it is clear that the blank should be filled with gifts. Paraphrased words: the photographs Henderson sold, buy photographs. Souvenirs traveling, souvenirs of a trip. Canoe. Keywords: took, trips, eastern rivers. Explanation: we can use the first point in traveling as a professional photographer as a cue. It is stated in the first sentence of paragraph 7. Subsequently, eastern rivers are mentioned, as Henderson often traveled by canoe on these rivers. Thus, the answer is canoe. Paraphrased words: took many trips, often traveled along eastern rivers and other noted eastern rivers. Mountains. Keywords: worked for, CPR, 1885, photographed, railway, Rogers Pass. Explanation: as we have learned in question 8, the information about Henderson's work for CPR can be found in paragraph 7 and 8. The year 1885 is mentioned in paragraph 7, so we should read from there. It is stated that he took photos of the mountains and the progress of construction at Rogers Pass. The construction here refers to that of the railway, so the remaining item is E mountains, which is the answer. F. Keywords: why, avoided, hospitals, 19th century. Explanation: information about 19th century hospitals can be found in paragraphs D, E, and F. Paragraphs D and E discuss the designs and performance of hospitals in the 19th century, but we are looking for a reason why people avoided hospitals. Paragraph F mentions that the prosperous steered clear of hospitals. The prosperous refers to rich people, and can be called some people. The phrasal verb steer clear of means keep away from, or in other words, avoid. Therefore, the reason why some people avoided hospitals in the 19th century was hospital fever. Paraphrased words: avoid, steer clear of. C. Keywords: suggestion, popularity, tall, buildings, linked, prestige. Explanation: in paragraph C, the author says that skyscrapers are symbols of status and not practical, implying that skyscrapers, tall buildings, are popular these days because people associate them with status or prestige. Therefore, the answer is C. Paraphrased words: is linked to, as symbols of, prestige, status, tall buildings, skyscrapers. E. Keywords: comparison, circulation of air, 19th century, building, modern, standards. Explanation: in paragraph E, 19th century hospital wards could, that's similar to the performance of a modern-day operating theatre. The word similar suggests a comparison, and modern-day operating theatre can be understood as modern standards. This sentence discusses the capacity of buildings to generate air changes, which is the circulation of air inside a building. Thus, this sentence is a comparison between the circulation of air in 19th century hospitals and modern buildings. D. Keywords. Short, tested, circulation of air, 19th century, building. Explanation. We can find information about Short's test in paragraph D. His test was to put pathogens in the airstreams of a 19th century hospital. He found that the ventilation systems in the room would have kept other patients safe from harm. This means that he tested the circulation of air in the hospital of 19th century. B. Keywords. Implication, advertising, increase, air conditioning. Explanation. Paragraph B mentions the widespread introduction of air conditioning systems, which is the result of marketing by their inventors. Therefore, it can be paraphrased that advertising led to the large increase in the use of air conditioning. Paraphrased words. Advertising, marketed. The large increase in use, the widespread introduction of. Designs. Keywords. Alan Short, examined. John Shaw Billings, influenced. Architectural, hospitals, ventilation. Explanation. The part containing information about John Shaw Billings, JSB, can be found in paragraph D. The first sentence mentions that Short's book highlights the art and science of ventilating buildings, including a study of the designs of JSB for a hospital in Baltimore in the 19th century. This suggests that in order to publish the book, Short must have had examined JSB's work. Later, in the last sentence of paragraph E, Short describes JSB's designs and other designs of 19th century buildings, stating that up to half the volume of the building was given over to ensuring everyone got fresh air. Therefore, the answer is the designs. Paraphrased words. John Shaw Billings, of hospitals to ensure they had good ventilation, of ingeniously ventilated hospitals. Have good ventilation, get fresh air. Pathogens. Keywords. Calculated, air, patients, suffering, harmed, other patients. Explanation. In the last sentence of paragraph D, Short explained his findings. We put pathogens in the airstreams, modeled for someone with tuberculosis. The ventilation systems in the room would have kept other patients safe from harm. So, patients with tuberculosis, TB, would release pathogens in the air when they coughed. These minute organisms would harm other patients unless there was good ventilation. Short modeled this in his experiment. Paraphrased words. In the air, in the airstreams. Coming from, modeled for. Patient suffering from, someone with. would not have harmed other patients, would have kept other patients safe from harm. Tuberculosis. Keywords: calculated, air, patients, suffering, harmed, other patients. Explanation. In the last sentence of paragraph D, Short explained his findings. We put pathogens in the airstreams, modeled for someone with tuberculosis. The ventilation systems in the room would have kept other patients safe from harm. So, patients with tuberculosis, TB, would release pathogens in the air when they coughed. These minute organisms would harm other patients unless there was good ventilation. Short modeled this in his experiment. The purpose of this experiment was to test whether the system could prevent TB pathogens from spreading. Therefore, it is clear that answer would be the tuberculosis. Paraphrased words: in the air, in the airstreams. Coming from, modeled for. Patient suffering from, someone with. Would not have harmed other patients, would have kept other patients safe from harm. Wards. Keywords: air, hospitals, change, often modern operating theatre. Explanation. The first sentence of paragraph E states that 19th century hospital wards could generate up to 24 air changes an hour. That's similar to the performance of a modern-day, computer-controlled operating theatre. This means that the air in hospitals' wards could change as often as in a modern operating theatre. Thus, the word in the blank is wards. Paraphrased words. He also found that, we discovered that, could change, generate up to 24 air changes. As often as, that's similar to. Modern operating theatre, modern day, computer-controlled operating theatre. Communal. Keywords: energy, reduced, locating, patients. Explanation. In the middle of paragraph E, Short states that communal wards would work just as well, at a fraction of the energy cost. Communal wards imply that more than one patient is located in each ward. Fraction implies that energy cost would be reduced, because less energy would be used. Therefore, the answer is communals areas. Paraphrased words: areas, wards. Energy use could be reduced, at a fraction of the energy cost. At a fraction of the energy cost, at a very low price. Public. Keywords: major, reason, improving, ventilation, 19th century hospitals, demand, protection, against bad air. Explanation. The first sentence of paragraph F states that much of the ventilation demand was driven by a panicked public clamoring for buildings that could protect against miasmas, toxic air that spread disease. The phrasal verb clamor for means a demand or request something passionately. In this context, it can be understood that the public demanded proper ventilation to protect them from toxic air, or bad air, known as miasmas. Paraphrased words. Demand, clamor for protection against, could protect against. Bad air, toxic air. Miasmas. Keywords: major, reason, improving, ventilation, 19th century hospitals, demand, protection, against bad air. Explanation. The first sentence of paragraph F states that much of the ventilation demand was driven by a panicked public clamoring for buildings that could protect against miasmas, toxic air that spread disease. The phrasal verb clamor for means a demand or request something passionately. In this context, it can be understood that the public demanded proper ventilation to protect them from toxic air, or bad air, known as miasmas. Paraphrased words. Demand, clamor for protection against, could protect against. Bad air, toxic air. Cholera. Keywords: blamed, spread disease, hundreds of years, epidemics, London and Paris, middle, 19th century. Explanation. The following sentence states that miasmas were feared as the cause of disease and epidemics for centuries. The author also names two epidemics, the Middle Ages infection and the cholera outbreaks in London and Paris in the 1850s or mid-19th century. The latter is the information we need, so the answer is cholera. Paraphrased words. Hundreds of years, centuries. Epidemics, outbreaks. Spread of disease, spread of infection. In the middle of the 19th century, from the Middle Ages. Six. Explanation. This section describes the popular opinion, or belief, that we ought to organize everything in our life to become more productive. Part of this can be considered recommendations concerning business activities, heading 3, but it also concerns other aspects of life besides work. In addition, this practice has only been widespread in recent times, not early times, so 3 cannot be the answer. The most suitable heading would be 6, what people are increasingly expected to do. More than at any other time in human history, we are told that we ought to organize our company, our home life, our week, our day, and even our sleep, so, increasingly, more than at any other time, people are told to, they are expected to, become more organized. Paraphrased words. Are increasingly expected to do, are told that we ought to. What? Organize our company, our home life, our week, our day, and even our sleep. One. Explanation. While Section A introduces the structured and organized approach to our lives. Section B mentions its drawbacks. A large proportion of workers claim to be dissatisfied with the way their work is structured and the way they are managed. So heading 1, complaints about the impact of a certain approach, is the correct answer. Paraphrased words. Complaints claim to be dissatisfied with the impact of a certain approach, the way their work is structured and the way they are managed. Three. Explanation. Section C is about the history of the science of management, with Frederick Taylor being one of the pioneers in the early part of the 20th century. So the only appropriate heading for this would be 3. Early recommendations concerning business activities. Two. Explanation. This section discusses the misguided assumptions about efficiency. The emphasis on order has led to people's efforts to become organized without understanding that organization does not always bring increased productivity. These basic assumptions can be considered fundamental beliefs that are in fact incorrect. Thus, the answer is 2. Paraphrased words. Fundamental beliefs, basic assumptions, that order is a necessary condition for productivity, are in fact incorrect, is misguided. Nine. Explanation. Section E mentions the term diminishing returns of order, which basically means that the disadvantages of organizing may eventually outweigh the advantages at some point. If the cost of formally structuring something outweighs the benefit of doing it, then that thing ought not to be formally structured. This has been shown in recent studies, so there is evidence behind this. Thus, the correct heading is 9, evidence that a certain approach can have more disadvantages than advantages. Paraphrased words. Evidence, recent studies. A certain approach, order. More disadvantages than advantages, has diminishing returns. Seven. Explanation. This section suggests that the best approach is to create an environment devoid of structure, which can lead to new solutions that, under conventionally structured environments, would never be reached. This implies that a new approach can achieve outcomes that are impossible under the current practice, a conventionally structured environment. Paraphrased words. Are currently impossible, would never be reached. Four. Explanation. Section G discusses the new approach, disorganization, which has been embraced by many companies, Google, General Electric, Otacon, etc. Thus, the heading for this section is, for organizations that put a new approach into practice. Paraphrased words. Organizations, companies. put into practice, embrace. (8) Explanation. This section warns readers that disorder, much like order, also seems to have diminishing utility and can also have detrimental effects on performance if overused. Therefore, they should only be used so far as it is useful. So the only appropriate heading for this is 8. Neither approach guarantees continuous improvement. Productive. Keywords: numerous, training sessions, aimed, people, feel. Explanation. Section A mentions countless seminars and workshops, which can also be called numerous training sessions, that help people to organize better and hence become more productive. Thus, it can be inferred that these are aimed to help people who are not productive enough. Paraphrased words: numerous training sessions, countless seminars and workshops, management, project management and self-organization. Feel they are not enough to becoming more. Perfectionists. Keywords: organized, appeals, people, regard themselves. Explanation. The last paragraph of Section A suggests that the idea of organizing everything has become popular among business leaders and entrepreneurs, much to the delight of perfectionists. This means that being organized appeals to perfectionists. So the answer is E. Perfectionists. Paraphrased words: who regard themselves as self-proclaimed. Appeals to, much to the delight of. Being organized to get everything right. Dissatisfied. Keywords: many, feel, aspects, work. Explanation. Section B mentions that a large proportion of workers claim to be dissatisfied with two aspects of their work: the way it is structured and the way they are managed. Therefore, the answer is dissatisfied. Paraphrased words: many people, a large proportion of workers. Feel, claim to be, with aspects of their work, with the way their work is structured and the way they are managed. True. Keywords: businesses, people, aim, order, value. Explanation. We can find information concerning businesses and people in the last sentence of Section D. They spend time and money organizing rather than actually looking at the usefulness of such an effort. So businesses and people aim to be organized, aim at order, but they do not really consider its usefulness, value. Thus, it is clear that the statement is true. Paraphrased words: both businesses and people, businesses and people. Aim at order, spend time and money organizing themselves for the sake of organizing. Without really consider, rather than actually looking at its value, the end goal and usefulness of such an effort. False. Keywords: innovation, successful, people, distinct, roles. Explanation. By using the skim and scan skill, we find that innovation is mentioned in the first sentence of section F. Here, it is stated that the best approach is to create an environment devoid of structure and hierarchy. This means that innovation is most successful when people are involved as the whole group, rather than as distinct roles found in a structure and hierarchy. Thus, this statement is false. Paraphrased words. Innovation, innovating, is most successful, the best approach. If the people involved enable everyone involved. Have distinct, engage as one organic group. Not given. Keywords: Google, inspired, adopt, flexibility, success, General Electric. Explanation. The last paragraph of section G contains information about General Electric and Google. It is mentioned that both of them have embraced disorganization or flexibility in their companies. However, the author does not mention anything about General Electric's success or the relation between Google and General Electric. So we cannot say that Google adopted flexibility because of General Electric.